You can start, Edris bhai. Bismillah.
Right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is so wonderful, it is so great to reconnect with each one of you, right? It is so wonderful that we have done that. And I have no doubt that you are really, really going to enjoy this presentation, inshallah, right? And what you would rather like to see done is that towards the end, it's very important that you ask any question you want, and you'll see the critical thing that you'll see, inshallah, is that we would like to really share with you practical things in marriage, things that we believe are necessary so that each one of us can find happiness, right? Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
I'm doing great, alhamdulillah. How about yourself?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So good to see you. Anyway, you know what? I want to introduce our guest, Sister Haleh Banani. Alhamdulillah, I met her a few years ago. I would read her brief biodata, but all of that for me comes to nothing if you don't meet this wonderful human being. She's a credit to the Ummah. She's a person that is authentic, loving, caring, a wonderful wife, a wonderful mother, a wonderful human being. And for me, it's very emotional to interact with her. And my prayer is, Sister Haleh, that we have a long-going relationship, inshallah, for the sake of the Ummah.
Jazakallah khair. You're so kind. You're so kind. And mashallah, it is because of your own goodness, the goodness in your heart. And one of the most genuine person I have had the honor of meeting. You're full of, mashallah, enthusiasm. And I love the relationship I see with you and Sister Roxana, mashallah. So it's a pleasure and honor to be here. And you hosted my family and I in South Africa, and you made us have the most memorable trip, the safari, the trips, really, we're so blessed to know you, mashallah.
No, inshallah, that should be a beginning of many trips
Inshallah.
anyway.
Inshallah.
Okay, I want to now just introduce our guests. And Haleh Banani has a master's in clinical psychology, serving the Muslim community with faith-based counseling since 1998. She provides online sessions for clients from around the world. Sister Haleh hosted her own TV show on Al Fajr TV in Egypt called With Haleh. She is an international speaker and relationship expert. She is the founder of the 5 Pillars of Marriage program, which is an online course that gives a blueprint to having a successful marriage. It has helped save hundreds of marriages worldwide, alhamdulillah. She's also the founder of a premarital program called Laugh, I like it, and Learn with comedian Baba Ali, whom I also know. She's also the founder of a premarital program called Laugh, I mismentioned that. She recently launched a global support program or group for sisters called the Mindful Hearts, which transform lives by building self-esteem, instilling emotional intelligence, and empowering women to the best level of themselves. Sister Haleh received her ijazah for the recitation of the Quran in Egypt in 2012. Now, having done that, Sister Haleh, I want to begin, as we said, we want to make this as interactive as possible. I want to begin by asking you, what are some of the challenges that couples are confronted with, and what you have been exposed to in marriage? Because in the end, we want to give our attendees a hope. We want them to live inspired and want them to say, my gosh, we can make it work,
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for that beautiful, heartfelt introduction. And it's an honor to be here. Prior to going into that, what I want to say is how important it is what you're doing as far as bringing this onto the forefront. discussing marriage, discussing the importance, and learning from people who have good marriages. I think that's critical, right? And because many times they're self-proclaimed experts and they may not even have good marriages and they may not have that experience. So I think that's why it's so important to do this and to come from that perspective. As far as to answer your question, what are the problems? My goodness, there are various problems. One is there's emotional, physical, psychological, and sometimes financial abuse that couples face, right? And we put a lot of emphasis on, the domestic violence, which it deserves. It needs to be addressed. But then there's also the emotional abuse, right? The emotional abuse that there are no visible scars, just like there's internal bleeding. It is, but it does leave a lasting effect. There's infidelity. Unfortunately, I see that within our Muslim Ummah. People who pray at the masjid, they're practicing, and they have this, they'll have infidelity. And sometimes I'll see 4 or 5 cases a day of this. So the infidelity, the emotional abuse, there is living like roommates, right? So there may be nothing major going on as far as abuse or infidelity, but then there's no connection. People are just leading separate lives.
Okay, if I were to look at the South African experience, I think it also resonates here in South Africa. The whole issue, I find essentially, if you look at the younger couples today, I find many of them are not emotionally ready for marriage. They find it very difficult to negotiate, to realign themselves, and they just see marriage as a continuation of the life they led, and they feel it's a sense of entitlement. And what I also find is that many of them become totally dependent on their partner for happiness, completely, and they do not lead a life of their own. And there are many, many issues. And, like your good self, I would like to give the couples hope. I like to tell them, listen, you know what, you can make it happen. You can make it happen. And you must do this. And you have to make certain changes and so on and so forth. Alhamdulillah for that. Now, coming back to our topic, right? The 3 missing ingredients. And I know we'd love you to be here for the rest of the evening, inshallah. And it's evening here. Let's talk about each of those ingredients that you regard as main, and let's take it from there.
Sure. Building the self-esteem is such an important aspect of any relationship, because when you feel good about who you are, when you have that sense of peace and contentment, then you're not easily threatened by others. So I'm sure you've seen that when someone is insecure, when they feel like maybe they lack accomplishment, maybe they haven't fulfilled their dreams, or maybe it could be about looks, whatever it is, if they don't feel good about who they are, then it's going to affect every aspect of the relationship. Have you noticed that to be true as far as the low self-esteem and bad relationships?
Yes, I think that's a fundamental, that's a basis of any marriage. I find that, when any individual has a low self-concept, he has a low self-esteem, you find that a few things happen. They find it difficult to adjust to the institution of marriage, number one.
Right.
They are suspicious. They have a victim mentality.
Yes.
And in the end, what happens, it puts pressure on the spouse to continually to reassure. And what often happens when you have low self-esteem, you begin to misinterpret cues. Yes. You begin to speculate, and you're right. And the whole thing is this. When a person is there in the marriage with low self-esteem, as I said, it puts a lot of pressure on the partner. How can they come around this, Sister Haleh? What can be done to help them?
I see the self-esteem is harvesting, cultivating a garden, right? It takes constant effort. We need to constantly be looking within ourselves and seeing how can we improve this, whatever it is that we need to improve on, whether someone wants to pursue their education, whether it is about looking their best, feeling their best, because self-esteem, what it is, it's about having this internal sense of self-worth, right? Where you're happy with who you are. So you're not constantly comparing yourself with others, and you can celebrate others. When someone feels good about who they are, then they can feel happy and thrilled for the success and achievement of their spouse and of anyone else, like whether it's the in-laws or family and friends. So one of the ways to develop this is, first of all, recognizing, there's either self-defeating shame, where some people just hate themselves, they're always putting themselves down, and then there's self-defeating pride, right, where someone is completely narcissistic, they just feel like there's nothing they need to improve. So we need to, just like the Prophet ﷺ has taught us, always find that middle path, and self-esteem is being in the middle. And it's about understanding, right? Because a lot of times people have this misconception that self-esteem is being egotistical, which is not. It does not contradict humility, right?
Correct.
Our religion emphasizes humility. And so people think that if they feel good about themselves, then somehow they're going against the Islamic principles. And in actually, the first lesson of the Mindful Hearts, the group that I have, it's all about building the self-esteem and understanding that when you have a sense of self-esteem, it is a person. Let me first describe a person with low self-esteem. Their self-worth is congruent to life events. So for instance, they get a job, they feel good. They lose a job, they feel bad. So if they get married, they feel happy. And if they lose the job. But a person with a stable and healthy self-esteem, that line, the core value, stays the same. So they get a job, they're happy, but it doesn't change their sense of self-worth. Even if bad things happen, they still feel centered. So
Yes,
yeah.
because what you are saying is so true, because in the end, I found when a person has got a healthy self-esteem, it's about self-acceptance. He accepts himself, and he or she knows, I'm worthy of someone else's love.
Yeah.
They do not look at it with suspicion. And what they also do is the fact that they are also very resilient. They're very, very strong, and they understand that things would change, and they accept the change. They surrender to Allah. But a critical thing is this, that many people may not recognize the fact that they got low self-esteem. They often look at self-esteem as the physicality. It's about the outward beauty. It's about the car, the house a person stays. And none of these things really got to do anything with self-esteem. In fact, I go to this, I often say this, I say sometimes a person sweeping the street can have a higher self-esteem than the king. And I think some people need to understand that, right?
That's such an important point you bring up, because there's a difference between confidence and self-esteem. So many people may have the confidence. They have the confidence to speak up. They may be able to give a lecture. They may, like you said, appear that they have a sense of self-worth, but in reality, it's hollow. Inside is hollow. And we see that with a lot of politicians, where they could come across as very, actually even arrogant, but inside the self-esteem is not solid. And you can sense when someone is hollow inside, because they are constantly seeking validation. Just like you said about the wife or the husband that is insecure, and they constantly need reassurance, right? And no matter what the spouse says, they're like, you're beautiful, I adore you, you're amazing. And they're just like, no, you're just lying. No, you're just saying that, right? Because they don't feel inside. So it is, there is a difference. And I've seen clients I've worked with where when I tell them you need to work on the self-esteem, build your self-esteem, sometimes they're surprised. They're like, I always thought I was confident. I'm like, you are confident, but the self-esteem, the feeling of self-worth is not complete. So you bring up a very important point. What have you seen in this, like when someone builds their self-esteem, right? How do you feel it enhances the relationships when they're in it?
You know what? I tell you, there's nothing more beautiful than that. When a person's self-esteem is built, he begins to look at his spouse with new eyes, with
Right.
love, with affection. And you find that he's also forgiving. They are able to forgive, because people low self-esteem they find it very hard to forgive. And when they have a healthy self-esteem, they are creative, they're positive. It's like the whole world is open to them. They are able to deal with the ups and downs of life. They're able to deal with an issue at home. They do not overreact. They do not blame. And most importantly, I think for me, they take ownership of their life.
Yes.
They take ownership, and that's very, very important, you know. So, you know, the Haleh is, and I'm so glad that you speaking about self-esteem as the first point. In fact, one of the critical things is whenever I do a marriage seminar or whatever, the first test I give them is a self-esteem test. The first test.
Very nice. What is the self-esteem test that you do?
No, I'll show it to you. But what I do, I don't tell them it's a self-esteem test. You see?
Okay.
If you tell them, then you know what
then
I'm
they're
saying.
aware. They put their filters on, right?
Yeah, and really, you know what? And I want to say this as you do. You know, my heart goes out to those people who have low self-esteem.
Yeah.
My heart goes out because they are really sabotaging their own happiness. My heart goes out because they are misinterpreting things that, you know, a person may be doing it out of the goodness of the heart. And so it's really an issue, you know. Anyways.
I agree. I totally agree. And my heart goes out to them. And that was the motivation behind coming up with the Mindful Hearts, right? Because I'm teaching them step by step how to develop this, because it's easy to tell someone, okay, you need to feel good about yourself, but how? Right there, you got to work on it. And there's internal work that needs to be done. And in our communities, we are not really talking about this as much. We're not teaching people, not giving them those essential tools of how to have a successful marriage, right? We talk about the obligations, your rights and obligations. Khalas. But it's really like you have to know how to like yourself, how to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you will not allow anyone to love you. This is such an important thing to realize.
It's a critical point. Just two things. I know, I mean, the dua that you make when you look at the mirror, I say, Ya Allah, you made me beautiful outside, also make me beautiful inside.
Yeah.
So you are born beautiful. You know, Allah has made you beautiful and He's made you unique. You know, Sister Haleh, you've been referring to this Mindful Hearts. Could you just, for the sake of the attendees, speak about this program for a few moments? I think it's important.
Yes, it is. It's a global support group for sisters about teaching them how to build their self-esteem, how to become a stronger individual, have emotional intelligence. And I made it very affordable because not everyone can afford like the one-on-one counseling. So this builds them and it creates a sisterhood where they get supported. So you learn, you apply, and you get supported. So it's a phenomenal journey. It's it's my favorite project, subhanallah.
Inshallah, when the lockdown is over, when things are safe, you know, I always wanted you to come to South Africa and train people up, and inshallah, inshallah it will happen, inshallah. Okay, now you know, no topic, I mean, we can exhaust in this short time, but I think, you know, we need to understand that as individuals, you are unique, accept yourself, and then ask yourself, why is it, am I suspicious? Why is it that I'm reluctant to express myself? Inshallah, that will change. Now,
Right.
what would you say is the second missing dimension?
Second dimension is the mindfulness, right? Mindfulness has to do with being aware. A lot of people live their life on autopilot. They're just going through the motions. They're either dwelling on, the past, they regret, they're remorseful, or they're anxious about the future. And this constant being either pulled in the future or pulled in the past prevents them from really being present. And so mindfulness is about being in the present. So when you are spending time with your spouse, you're fully engaged, right? When you're spending time with your loved ones, when you're eating a meal, this sense of awareness is so critical for relationship, because many people talk about, my spouse is there, right? With the lockdown, everyone is there. They're at the whole day in, day out, but they will say they are emotionally not present. So they are there, they're on their devices, they're on, or even if they're not on device, but their mind is thousands of miles away. So it's about that awareness. It's about being in the present and really knowing yourself. So how do you feel that this sense of like mindfulness, how do you feel it enhances not only our relationships, but even spiritually, being more in the present?
I think it's also, one of the, not, I won't say funny things, intriguing things, is each of the points you emphasize are points I also emphasize, right? Okay. So, so what I want to do is I give an example of a mindfulness thing that I experience, right? If I could.
Okay.
Right. Was a few years ago, I went to my hometown, Poshepson. Inshallah, you could also visit my
Inshallah.
home. So what happened was that I went, and I have a younger brother. I have 5 brothers, and I'm the eldest. And so I said, my younger brother is the imam of the mosque there, and he's a head teacher of the school. So I said, I made a special dua. I said, Ya Allah, and I'm in the habit of hugging and whatnot. So I said, Ya Allah, today I want to connect with my brother. I want to connect with his soul. I want it to be unlike any other meeting I ever had with him.
Nice.
So I went there to the office. I gave him a hug, and I spoke to him for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, he started crying. He told me, Idris, and I hugged him. He said to me, Idris, there's something different you did today. Yet my conversation, the words were the same. He said, what did you do? I said to him, today, when I spoke to you, I was physically, emotionally, and spiritually with you. When I asked you, how are you? I really want to know. And if you are in pain, I'm your brother. I want you to share that pain with me. If you are in joy, share that. When I asked you about your family, it was about that. And it's so true, you see, that I always say this, 2 minutes of mindfulness is better than a lifetime of mindlessness.
Oh, that's beautiful. I got goosebumps, Uncle Edris. I got goosebumps. I think that's beautiful. You just demonstrated what the power of mindfulness, right? And this is something that you gave to your brother. It's a gift. When you give full, undivided attention, it is truly powerful. And I see the transformation with, let's say, with my clients, because when I give that undivided attention, when I'm listening, like I really want to care about you and I'm listening to you, they see how it can transform them. And I tell them, what if I was on my phone? I'm on my phone while you're talking. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I'm with you. I'm with you. Then you would not feel the same compassion or the empathy. So I think the idea of being mindful of others, but before you can be mindful of others, you have to be mindful of yourself. The mindfulness comes And in Islamic terms, we have this, which is muraqaba, right? Being vigilant, being hyper vigilant of our thoughts, being hyper vigilant of what we say, what we do. There are too many people who just let people have it, right? They just blurt it out. And they do it under the banner of honesty. I am an honest person. So, and then they slap people with the truth, and they hurt so many people's feelings. So with muraqaba, and that is a way of living your life with ihsan, that you know that Allah is watching. So you carefully take those steps so that you don't stomp on someone's feet, that you do not hurt someone's feelings. So when you're mindful about yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions, then you can give that. You've done the internal work, and that's why you're able to give it. But if someone has not, they're not cognizant, then they're not able to give that mindfulness to others.
You know, I want to tell this to the participants. I recall vividly our trip to Kruger National Park, right?
Oh,
Remember
that
the
was
bus
amazing.
trip?
How can I forget? It was amazing. We went on a safari.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
And what I notice about you, and may Allah bless you for this, that when anyone engages you, you give them your complete attention. And you know, that's a beautiful thing. That's a prophetic quality. You know, when our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam met with any person, he turned his whole person to him. And you know, and he's a prophet of Allah.
Yes.
He's got such a vision, such a responsibility. And I think, you know, if couples can give that mindfulness in terms of themselves and the other, life will be so beautiful. Life will be so beautiful.
Yes, yes, it really would be, because we are just actually present, right? We cannot go through life heedless and mindless, because when we are mindless, that's when we can commit this, that's when we fall into sin. When we are mindless, that's when we hurt other people's feelings, because we're not thinking about the consequences, we're not thinking about the presence of Allah. So it is very important. And what I noticed about you on that beautiful trip, and we had hours and hours together, which gives us a perspective to really get to know another person, is just your ability to bring joy, right? I mean, even in the smallest ways, the fact that you always have a smile, and that's a prophetic characteristic, to always bring joy, and you always had something funny to say. And I think one of the funniest ones was you say, "I like it." You would just, you just, I like it. Are you talk like Mandela? It was just like with the accent, you know, it's just always bringing joy. And I think if more people we're mindful about bringing joy, right? A lot of times people bring garbage, like emotional garbage, right? They come and they complain about everything that is bad and everything that's wrong. And when they come, it's kind of like they bring a dark cloud, right? But when you have that mindfulness, and you have that sense of gratitude with Allah, wherever you go, you're like sunlight, right? You are like a sun, and it brings it, people feel the warmth. So that's what my family and I felt from you, is that warmth. And I think if more what is that?
You're very kind, you're very generous. You know, but the point that you made, the critical thing is this. The idea that when you are mindful, you have the capacity of listening to every word. So you understand, you become more self-aware. You realize that your body language, the words you say, you know, could be also hurtful, right? So anyway, now, Sister Haleh, time is going so quickly. I'm really enjoying it. I hope you're also enjoying it. Yeah, the third dimension that you speak about that is missing in the
Yes, it is emotional intelligence, which is something I've been passionate about for the past 20 years. I really feel that this component, understanding ourselves, having this sense of knowing, having emotional intelligence means being aware of yourself and then being aware of others, managing your emotional state and being able to manage other people's emotional states. When you do this, when you really cultivate this, then what happens is that everything transforms, all your relationships. And this is such a critical point. And the first person who spoke about this was Brandon Goleman, about emotional intelligence. How before, intelligence was defined by your IQ, right? Well, how high is your IQ? But then they followed these individuals who had very high IQ, but they saw that their life was not as fulfilling. Their relationships were broken. Then they decided that, developing your emotional intelligence is actually even more valuable, because a person can have average intelligence, but when you have the emotional intelligence, you are able to really thrive within yourself and within all your relationships.
That is so true. The whole issue, funny, when we speak about this, you'll find it all in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Sallallahu
You'll
alaihi
find
wasallam.
it in
Yes.
him.
Yes.
People forget that at any given time in their life, they are going through some emotions. They are going through some emotions.
Mhm.
And these emotions will inform the behavior, the attitude, and the feelings. And sometimes we are so preoccupied in giving vent to our emotions, we forget there is other person. You might be hurting the other person.
Yes.
It's not the inability to read a social situation. And I was reading who's this guy Gottman? Gottman,
Yeah, of
right?
course. Yes.
Yeah. And he said something, and I don't know whether you agree with it. He says that couples who have a high emotional intelligence, they are going to be happy. They are going to be happy because what they are able to do, they are able to disagree without being disagreeable.
Nice. Yes,
He can.
absolutely.
Am I
Yeah,
right or wrong? Right.
you're
But how,
absolutely right. Yes.
and
Well,
and and Carol, sister Carol.
yeah, the thing is that, yeah, I not only do I agree with it, but I provocate this because I got training with the Gottmans, and it actually definitely shed a lot of
Okay.
light on relationships. And one of the things, like with the teaching a person how to connect with another individual, sometimes it's, they haven't had the training, they haven't had the tools. You know what I say when someone's getting married? It's like they're being sent off to go camping, right? They go camping. The more equipped they are, the better their experience is going to be. Sometimes a person, they will be sent out camping, and if they don't have a tent, if they don't have food, if they don't have a flashlight, it's going to be a horrible experience. But when you equip these people, that's like my passion, that my husband and I spent 3 years in developing this marriage program, 5 pillars of marriage, to equip people to go in, and they have all the tools. So when they have the tools, then not only is it not harmful, it becomes a joy, right? So what you're saying, as far as, yes, having emotional intelligence makes you be able to connect with another person, makes you be more empathetic. Because if you don't have
Yeah, you're
empathy,
correct.
right?
Yes.
So how do you feel is like the empathy, the role of empathy in relationships?
I think it's a critical dimension. You
Right.
know, it's a critical dimension because, marriage is not only about uh, your own emotions.
Yes.
It is about recognizing the emotions of the other.
Right.
Is not to say things that would be hurtful. It's about healing, using purring words,
Oh,
telling
I
your
like
wife,
that
shush,
purring.
not
What do you
snarling
mean?
words,
What do you mean by purring words?
I mean, lovely words, not
Ah,
snarling words,
right.
like saying, my darling, I love you. That's
Ah,
purring.
right.
You don't say like, come here now, I want you now, that kind of thing. And,
Yeah.
and, and the thing is this is an important thing. when people have high emotional intelligence, if they go through a situation in the marriage, they're able to isolate the situation, discuss it, yet they are happily married. They do not say, I don't know why I married you. They do not make those kinds of reactions, so they do not suffer from emotional meltdown. Now, in terms of these three things, right, in terms of self-esteem, mindfulness, and also emotional intelligence, what role do you think, schools can play, the homes can play, in terms of developing that in children,
It is critical. It is critical. All three of these aspects can be taught from very early on. I mean, we know the research that has been done as far as building self-esteem. When a child is treated with respect, when they are attended to, when their needs are met, when you treat them respectfully, their self-esteem rises. Unfortunately, many parents, they belittle their kids, they tease them, they make fun of them, they tell them you're worthless, you will not amount to anything, and then they're surprised when this person suffers from depression or becomes suicidal. So from early on, you can start building your kids, building their self-confidence. Then when it comes to emotional intelligence, teaching them how to have empathy, right? So whenever there was a problem, let's say if our kids had a disagreement, we would not let them just ignore it. We would not let them just explode. It was about, okay, you share your feelings, validate the other person, now apologize and make things better. So you have to train it. But in order to train, you have to first have the skills, right? So it's about educating yourself, having the emotional intelligence to be able to pass it on. And as far as mindfulness, we can definitely teach that from an Islamic perspective, that Allah is always watching. Your deeds are being recorded and you need to be mindful. You can't just go through the motions of life. So all of these things, the role of the parents is first to model the correct behavior, instill, teach, educate, and then encourage. So that would be the role of, with parents. Then of course in schools, we need to recognize we can't belittle our the students. I had a client just yesterday complaining about her low self-esteem. There's bullying in the school because of the color of her skin, and it's so sad that the teacher has contributed to the bullying. And there is, sometimes the teachers will make fun of someone, let's say, who is stuttering, and that leads to a lot of, that damages the self-esteem. So we can definitely, the school can play a role in teaching. And I feel we need to have classes to teach these material, because yes, the math, the reading, the science, those are all important. But if we don't have the component of emotional intelligence or self-esteem, they will have a lot of intelligence, but then they will suffer in their relationships.
What you're saying, it's so true, because I really feel there are lots of people who feel isolated. They feel a sense of insecurity. They are almost like spectators in their own life.
Yes.
They are spectators, and they look at other people, they envy them. Yet I say to them, many people that I deal with, I say, when I know comparisons are odious, but when I look at your situation, it pales into insignificance. Really, the potential both of you have to have a happy home. There is nothing more beautiful than a happy home. Nothing more joyful than a happy home.
It can be your paradise.
You and I have got that, so it's
Alhamdulillah.
yeah, absolutely, right. Okay, what we'll do now is, because you need to run away in about 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. Let's take in some questions, right?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, let's see. There's some hands that were raised. So can the okay? Let's see who's right. Anyone here? Sunaid and
Yes, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Alaikum salam.
Jazakumullah khairan. My question is regarding the self-esteem. How should a wife deal with a husband who could possibly be suffering from self-esteem or is having hardships, so he wants to be alone and he doesn't want his wife to talk to him? Or how can she deal with that as a wife? Because that takes a toll sometimes on the wife. Jazakumullah khairan.
Okay. Would you like to address it?
Okay, do you do it first?
Okay. All right. Well, as much as the wife can reassure, you can reassure him, you can help him, maybe encourage to develop different aspects of the relationship and develop different aspects of his self-esteem. Sometimes it's a specific thing. I have clients that they may be severely obese, right? And they need that encouragement, the support to, let's say, to lose the weight. Some people, it's about finishing their education. Maybe it's about developing something within themselves. So as a spouse, you can play a supportive role, but be careful not to become a parent in the relationship, right? You don't want to parent your spouse. And if he needs space, it's really, really critical to give space, right? It is what ends up happening is that many times we give to our spouse what we want ourselves. And as women, we want to be, please tell me what you want, please talk to me. But the man sometimes genuinely needs to have that time alone. And I think if you respect that, then he will have the opportunity to maybe develop himself more.
And just to add to what you said, is so beautifully responded. The last thing you want is to tell him, what's your problem? You got low self-esteem. In fact, you should not even use those words.
Oh yeah, I thought you said tell him this. I got shocked. I go, oh no, what are we doing? Don't do that, right?
No.
Right.
No, never do that,
No,
never do that.
No.
In other words, you got to use a lot of wisdom, because I found when couples get to understand each other's background, then they're able to deal with them, because we are really products of our upbringing, and, reassure and in different ways, listen to lectures together and read books and so on and so forth, and it's important that the fact that you recognize it, it's important,
Yes.
Let's go on to the
indirectly.
next, who's the next person?
Mariam Jahun.
Okay, Mariam. Mariam, continue, please. Hello. Okay. Okay, you don't want.
That connection.
Okay, she can come later if she's. Anyone? There are others there. Can you go on to the next person? Okay, Aisha.
Yeah, I think the internet is not as strong there.
There's an internet, internet. Yeah,
maybe she can write down her question.
Aisha's ready now. Aisha, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
So basically,
I think we need to turn off Sister Mariam's.
Yeah. Turn mute Sister Mariam's. Listen to Aisha. He'll come back to Mariam.
Okay. I'm a teacher, and I've studied a lot of psychology modules, so I am aware of emotional intelligence. I've read a lot about it, but coming from a family background where I did get that abuse of being teased and being belittled for the way in South Africa you have this community, a Merman community, and you're not fair enough and you're not thin enough and all of this nonsense and who's gonna marry you and stuff. And basically I became a success, and I moved overseas after working and stuff, and basically it's easy for me to put on a strong front and be emotionally intelligent for my students and in my profession. But when it comes to my personal relationships, I find it very difficult to apply to in my marriage and with my family. You kind of build this kind of not hate, but this kind of like resentment towards your family because you know that they've done this to you, and you don't want to hold that resentment. But how do you overcome this? How do you actually apply the emotional intelligence into your own life?
Okay. Okay, we'll answer that for inshallah.
Okay.
Okay. Sister, you will answer first.
All right. So many people struggle with not being equipped, not being, not only not being equipped. I had one lady tell me, this woman gave me nothing in my life, referring to her mother, unfortunately. But it's not just about that, but it's all the damage that they have done. What I think it's really important to realize is that each parent tries their absolute best and they deal with what they have, right? So some people, they just don't have the tools. And I'll give this small analogy that has helped a lot of my clients is that if let's say you're starving and you go to a person who has a buffet of food and you ask for food and they say, no, I'm not going to give it to you. You feel angry, you feel upset, you're so greedy, you're so stingy. But what if you go to a person and you ask for food and they have nothing to give you? Are you going to be mad at them? You're not going to be mad because you feel like they don't have it to give it. So your parents, maybe they didn't have it to give it to you. So instead of being angry at them, you need to have compassion and accept that this is the qadr of Allah, what you were given, whether that's in rizq. We can accept when it's rizq wise, right? Like, okay, someone lived in poverty or someone has sickness, but even the emotions, right? The emotional support, that is a form of rizq, and meaning sustenance. And someone, if you were given a limited amount and you have grown to be a success, mashallah, you need to accept their limitation and forgive them. And maybe you need to do internal work, maybe you need to do some professional help, but also once you forgive them, that's when you can really apply it with your family. And we need to start with the home first. You can't spend all your energy on other people, the community, on the school, on the masjid, and then come home and be fed up and angry with your spouse and kids. That's just not fair. We got to start. We have to start with the home.
Yeah. In fact, there are a few things. Jazakumullah for that, Sister Haleh. Is one of the things, the sister spoke about. She studies psychology and she understands these concepts, right? Psychologists also tell us revealing is healing. Is when you speak about it and it's cathartic, and you must have heard about the empty chair technique. When you address the chair, these are your parents, as it were, and you speak out, why did you deny me this? Out of respect for them, you don't talk to them, but you talk to the chair. And what happens, it becomes very emotional, it sort of cleanses you, right? The third aspect is this, that your past is a point of reference, not your residence. It's a point of reference. It's not your residence. And the thing is this, painful though it is, you cannot live in the past. You cannot blame them. And you must say, I'm able to extricate myself from it, inshallah. And I'm sure, inshallah, you'll be able to do that, inshallah. Okay, next question.
It's Galaxy S8.
Okay.
That's a very
Galaxy.
very sci-fi kind of name.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, Bismillah. Ask your question. Hello? Okay, go on to someone else. Bilqis. Bilqis? Hello?
Okay, we're unmuted. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you? How are you, sister? This is Ahmed, Sister Bilqis's husband. Interesting question, which I've been trying to understand for many years. When people search for a partner, they're always sort of bombarded by, you get this mass media movies, etc. And, there's this idea of physical attraction, chemistry, this romantic aspect of things. And then you get other people who tell you when you get married, your eyes will open. And, you know, somehow in marriage, it doesn't seem to be that fairy tale all the time. There are much more challenges. Intimacy might take a backseat at some point in time. There's a lot of hard work for it, you know. How important is this aspect of intimacy, and what is it that makes people start looking outside of that marriage? You know, that comes across, which is the 7-year itch that people talk about, you know. I saw a Somali guy the other day, he had 4 wives on the front page. There was a Samson guy talking about, you know, other things, lots of controversial things happening, but not very kosher for the South African context, and probably a very controversial question for myself. So I guess my question is, how important is this chemistry, intimacy aspect, and is it sustainable for a marriage long term? Or what if the spark dies out? What do you do then? Shukran.
Okay.
Okay.
Should I go on? Okay. Sure. I find that intimacy.
We have a lot of questions, so we've got to be, you know,
quickly. Okay. So it is very pivotal to have good intimacy, right? I have seen people tolerate so much when their intimacy is fulfilling, and I've seen people have everything, but when that's missing, that they are ready to leave it. So I actually it's interesting because I make it the 5th pillar of the 5 pillars of marriage, because so many things have to be in place before that can fall into place. You have to feel good about yourself. You have to have a friendship. You have to be spiritually aware. You have to resolve your conflict. That's when a person opens up spiritually. And if you physically. And so if you don't have that physical satisfaction, you are going to be more prone to some form of infidelity. And I see it all the time with men who are family men. They are religious men. They love their wives. But when they have been, let's say, deprived, and they don't feel like there's any connection, no friendship, no intimacy, that's when they unfortunately succumb to that. So it is a very critical thing. You have to safeguard your marriage from infidelity. And I feel attraction and magnetism is important. Don't ignore it, because if, you know, the Prophet ﷺ said, when you get married, you complete half your faith. So it is an important aspect. Try to say it as fast as possible.
Okay. Sister Haleh, how many more minutes you got with us?
How about I can stay till 12:55, like a few more minutes.
Okay, fine. Okay, right. Okay, right.
I just have another lecture, or else I would have been happy to stay on.
Okay, next question.
Aisha Imran.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I've got a question. Basically, since childhood, I've been, you know, sorry, I get emotional talking about it.
No.
Take your time.
Allah make it easy.
But, you know, since I've been little, my people have been killing my low esteem, and it's been same after marriage as well. And I don't know how to deal with it.
You've been suffering from very low self-esteem, and you don't know how to deal with it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the fact that you recognize that that's a problem, you're halfway there, okay? Because so many people live in denial. So many people are unaware. So, you know, you need to take necessary steps to learn about it. You know, I've seen so many broken people that will come, they learn the material, they apply it, and they will have a transformation. So just because you were not given the tools at the beginning, don't be scared. Don't feel like you're doomed.
Well, basically, I've been compared to my sister as well, because basically I'm married to my sis. Well, she's now divorced, but I'll tell you in a minute. But basically, I was compared with her all the time, that she's a clever one, I'm dumb, I don't know anything, I'm slow, I don't know how to do stuff, I don't know how to do anything. Yeah. And then when she left, you know, the crap that I was given, I can't even begin to explain to you the crap I was given when she got divorced to my brother-in-law. That was just so traumatic. At the same time, I was doing my Alima course, and my exams were on, and she left her husband, and then all the crap just came into me. And I just feel that since childhood, all I've been going through is being put down. my self-esteem killed, my confidence. Now I've come to a stage where I don't have any confidence in myself. I've got low esteem. I don't, even with my housework and everything, I'm struggling because people have just literally killed me inside.
Oh,
And
look,
even though they're good, even though they're bad.
let me interrupt you just so I can give you some tools, okay? And I apologize for interrupting you. The thing is, I understand that you've gone through so much. I don't think that you need to give up. Okay, at any stage in your life, you can set things right. Okay, and it's just a matter of you work on yourself, you do the internal work, learn the material, right? We're happy to hold your hand. We have a sisterhood with the Mindful Heart. You can come and really literally pick up the pieces and learn all of this, because there's no need to suffer. Okay, don't suffer alone. Don't suffer alone, and make the changes you need in yourself. And I pray that Allah puts that serenity in your heart, inshallah.
Shahida Sadiq next.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for this evening. But just something that I want to say, and so I'm a registered counselor and I work with families and couples and stuff. And one of the things I've found that almost just focusing on the individual without looking at the outside and the environment. So besides the couple and the immediate family, one needs to actually understand how the different institutions that we all function in as well affect us. And I found that if we start, so I think it's like a two-way process. You start on yourself, but simultaneously changes need to happen around you. Otherwise, if you're in a marriage and one person is working, but the other person doesn't, it is very, very hard to remain in that marriage, because you kind of move ahead of the other person. And how much, and that's where you either make it the husband almost becoming the father or the wife becoming the mother, because they feel they constantly have to carry the other person to make the marriage survive. So particularly being in South Africa, and I think we're very aware of what's happening in the, amongst Muslim men at the moment. So instead of saying to women, it's just your stuff and it just comes from your family or vice versa, we need to actually start saying, let's look at those institutions. Look at what the policies, the apartheid policies in South Africa did to our grandparents and our parents, and how then, so if our mothers and fathers were never regarded as whole human beings in a system, that becomes so internalized. And if you don't go through that process, or if Islam, our men, and I'm speaking from a woman's perspective,
right?
If our men continuously speak in a degrading manner, and yes, it is their low self-esteem that they could be degrading towards women, but what about what they've learned and how they're relearning what was the intention of the Quran?
Right. Let me address this very quickly, and then I will hand it over to Brother Edris, because I'm scheduled. The timer is coming 2 minutes. I have to have another lecture. But as far as what you said, obviously, when both parties are engaged and both want to make things better, it's definitely easier. But I really believe that when one person changes themselves, then the other individual will respond to them. And the verse of the Quran that is that Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah does not change the condition of the people until they change themselves. So when you take that on seriously and you work on yourself, then your spouse will respond to you differently. So don't be hopeless if your spouse is not on board to get counseling or to learn about making changes. I really believe that. I'm going to hand it over to you. Jazakallah khairan for having me. It was a pleasure and an honor being in your company. I wish I had more time. This was very intriguing, and I would have loved to have answered more of the questions.
Don't worry, inshallah. I'll try to answer those questions. May Allah bless you. Allah look after you, protect you and your family. Inshallah, you take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, that was Sister Haleh. May Allah protect her always and her family, inshallah. Inshallah. Coming back to Shahida's question, one of the things that is critical, it's all the more reason why we need, and therefore we're doing a program tomorrow on premarital conversations and beyond, why we need to discuss those things, how there needs to be reciprocal understanding to understand who you're going to get married to, what are the issues they're experiencing, what kind of support we need to give them. Okay, who's the next person with question?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I have a question. What do you do if you maybe made a bad decision of the person you married in terms of you didn't do all that background checks, you didn't have maybe the knowledge, or maybe you didn't have the insight, or maybe you were so focused on the attraction or the other things that everything else didn't seem as important, and you get married, you have children, and it's been many years now, or a few years, and you feel, I'm just going to be quite frank just to get to it, but you hear from others and that this person married you because of your money or your status, really. That was their possible intentions. And you can see it in the marriage in terms of that person is not really emotionally there, just kind of puts in minimal, efforts just to kind of keep things going. But maybe that person did, after several years, develop some love because now you're spending time and whatnot. What do you do in that situation? Because for me, as the wife of, it's like you're being emotionally neglected, and after some time you just can't take it anymore. You reach a point where you just say, is this the qadr of Allah? Do I keep trying? Or, marriage is something where you can leave the marriage. So some people say like you just have to deal with it and keep going on, but marriage is something that you can leave. And is this something that you leave or you keep trying?
Okay, you know what, the kind of situation you describe is not uncommon. Sometimes it comes from a male perspective, but often our sisters who go through this particular experience. I have found that every marriage in the end has possibilities to grow. And how couples are drawn towards each other is through change behavior, through love, through showing love, through showing respect. And the whole thing is this, my question I'm going to ask you now is, did you all try, for example, intervention, counseling, and so on and so forth? And how receptive would your partner be in terms of that? Because there are three particular ingredients that I recommend for all couples. The one is developing a family routine. The second is developing a core values. And third one is developing what I call family goals. And I found that couples, as you said, there may be some love now, is to look at it. It's a different thing when you find yourself in a hostile marriage, you are abused psychologically. In fact, you are also, perhaps in fear of your life. So I would recommend three things. The one is to confront the issue without being confrontational, to get external support, as it were. And the third thing is to talk about it. It's very, very important that you need to do that. And if you want, you could also contact me through email and whatever, and I would give you a more elaborate response, right? Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Anyone else? Okay. iPhone. Okay, is that iPhone there? Raisa Mukaddam? Hello? Hello?
Hello, hello, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Okay, my case is similar to the previous situation. I'm actually currently in the situation right now. I've been married for 6 years. I've got 2 wonderful children, alhamdulillah. It was actually a love marriage. However, I haven't known that my husband has been on an antidepressant tablet before. However, he's become very numb towards my emotions, towards the kids' emotions. He's been physically abusive twice, and I've seemed to be picking it up on the kids, rubbing it off on the kids. Where he's, I got a boy and I've got a girl, and the son is now hitting my daughter, and he tends to say that my father does it to you. We're not intimate anymore. It's become very cold. I can't communicate anymore. There's it's just like a bit too much. When I'm emotionally abused, sorry. I'm actually living with his mom at the same time, and she's also very difficult, in a sense where I basically am treated as a total outsider. And it's like he doesn't respect me as a woman. His family comes along and they disrespect me, and he tolerates it. And in brief, what would you think that I should do? Because I feel like I'm in an emotional and abusive relationship. So
shame, okay, Karen.
Sorry. So I see, like, everybody has to, obviously, we've been through the mills and everything. We've been through counseling. We've been through the Jamiyat. And I've tried, like, basically everything with both parties got involved, and I haven't seen a change in that. And he seems to be very reliant on this tablet, which suppresses his emotions. And I think it's affecting my kids very badly.
Okay. You know what? I think, okay, I was going to ask you whether there was any intervention. Did you seek help and all that, right? And you know what? In the end, one of the things that I do when there is a situation that is quite serious, it's really, really impacting on the respective lives, right? When couples come to me, what I do is I get them to sign a new contract. And in that contract, I would say, I so-and-so, with the ID, hereby commit myself to the marriage. And if there is a recurring pattern of this kind of behavior, then the marriage may be annulled. I use those words, may be annulled. I get them to sign. And I found that that kind of contract often puts a lot of pressure on the individual to make those kinds of changes. And that's important, you see. And in the end, you got to ask yourself in terms of your own threshold. But what I'm concerned about also is the issue of physical abuse. Physical abuse is even any kind of abuse in a marriage is a complete no-no. What you can do, you can also email me. I'm prepared to see you and your husband, right? And I do not charge for this kind of help. And I often travel to many parts of South Africa and other parts of the world. So inshallah, we'll talk further there. Okay, Raisa, can we do that? Hello? Okay. Who's next?
Pat is next. Pat.
Hi,
Pat.
I'm calling from America, and I just wanted to know, will this recording be available?
Yes, it will be available. It will be available, and it will be, you need to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It will be there. Okay, Pat?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Did you like the presentation?
Yes, it was remarkable.
Okay. Right, thank you. Right, who's next? Nadia.
Lasigan.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Alaikum salam.
Yeah, my question is for, I'm not asking on behalf of myself, but just because I also do some little talk among my community. But we normally have this issue where they do like arranged marriage, that maybe matchmaking. if I can put it that way, that the sister or the brother later find out that I don't really like this brother, or the brother doesn't really like this sister, maybe due to intimacy, not cooking very well, ego, and so many things. In a situation of matchmaking, and both parties are not happy and they were threatening each other that I'm going to kill you one day, you are going to kill, what do you think they can do to make the marriage work? Or divorce is just because the level of divorce in the community is getting really scary and alarming. So in a situation like that, what would you recommend, sir? And secondly, secondly, the record of this program for today, because I joined in a bit late. Can we have it, please?
Yes, you can. If you go to my YouTube channel, Edris Khamissa, it will be there in a few days' time, inshallah, right?
Inshallah.
Okay, coming back to your question, right? In fact, studies have shown globally that arranged marriages, right? Arranged marriages, not forced marriages, but arranged marriages that where the couples want to marry, they themselves are happy, and the families themselves support them, there is a 94% success, right? But when couples marry under coercion, right? When they're forced to do something, and you find that many of them who say, okay, fine, we are in this situation, we committed ourselves to it, even under duress, let's see what we can do to make it work, That's another matter altogether. But I think it's very, very critical, very, very critical for people to change. Often it's a cultural thing when that kind of, as it were, people are forced to do whatever they have to do. But in the end, if they go ahead with the marriage, they must do whatever it takes to make it happen, inshallah, right? Okay, next one. Who's in? Nadia?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum, Brother Edris. Jazakallah khair.
Walaikum assalam, Nadia.
Jazakallah khair for wonderful program and insight. So I just wanted to know, what is your email address, and can we schedule any appointment with you through that email?
Yeah, you can. Okay, my email address, if you send it to, Zunaid, would you put it on the screen now, please, man? Okay, it's if you can hear this, it's ehk@mweb.co.za, or else they would put something there at the end of the program, inshallah. I would make sure they do that, right? Is that okay, Nadia?
Ji, Jazakallah khair, brother.
Keep it right. Right, next.
iPhone.
Okay, iPhone.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Hello.
salam. Hello, we can.
Brother Idris, I'd like to ask you a question, and I'd like to ask you, see, it's like I got recently married, and my wife and I, we were dating for 4 years, and in that 4 years, we broke up, and then we got back together, and then she became my best friend. So I did marry my best friend, and it was easier to communicate. But as a man, there are certain emotions that it's very difficult to show it to a woman. And especially it's like I grew up, it's like seeing the old mentality with my father, where that you don't just openly show your emotions, or you don't cry to your wife. Now, how do I now get closer to my wife emotionally? Because she also has depression and anxiety, and that's also to be emotionally close to her is very important. So how do I break that barrier and get closer to her?
Okay, you know what? If you can email me and contact me, but I'll share something in general with you. Okay. This is one of the biggest gripes our sisters have about the men. the men do not show emotions because, and you are the product of your home environment. And it's very, very important. You know, in fact, I intend writing a book, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the romantic prophet, because he showed emotions. You got to show emotions. Our sisters like it when a man expresses emotions, demonstrates his love for them. They like it. And you got to, even if you do it mechanically, do it. You must start doing it. Then you become a natural part of you. You'll feel good doing it. And so what you need to just contact me, and then we'll contact each other's numbers. Then over a few minutes, I'll tell you exactly what to do, inshallah. Is that okay?
Aisha Imran next.
I hope. Okay, next.
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Brother Idris, I don't know whether you remember, I spoke before with regards to, you know, my self-esteem that was killed and my confidence.
Correct, yeah.
I'm just asking, how do I build myself again? Because, like, I'm basically now, you know, like in my 40s, and, you know, it's come to a stage where I just basically, because of my low esteem killed, I mean, my sister, she's out from my family now.
Okay.
Like,
Okay,
and that's
fine,
been
okay.
like about 2-3 years, but I just need to know how I can build myself again.
Okay, okay, fine, okay, I'll tell you. There are 5 things you need to do. You must not allow the negative talk of people to allow you to have a negative self-talk. You must say to yourself, I'm a unique creation of Allah. I am like this, number 1. Secondly, you need to also speak to someone about your issues. Thirdly, very, very importantly, you got to start loving yourself. You got to start loving yourself. You got to accept yourself for who you are. The other very important thing is this: you must also learn to assert yourself without being aggressive, right? And it's something, and I can assure you, if you keep on doing it, you mustn't allow it to be a vicious cycle, but a virtuous cycle. When it goes through your mind, you must say, you know what? I also had issues as I was growing up with self-esteem, right? I also had issues. I wanted to be like other people. I did not give an opinion. I was scared. I wanted to be an appeaser. But all that has changed. And today I like myself. And people tell me, you know what, Edris, we are so happy to see you. I said, when I come home, I look at the mirror, I say to myself, hey, Edris, I like it. You got to scream out loud and say to yourself that I love myself, right? So inshallah, if you can also email me, we can talk further, right? Okay. Now, are there any questions? I'm going to tell them about our future programs. Are there any more questions?
Mohammed Zahir is next.
Assalamu alaikum.
Mohammed Zaid. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah, I really appreciate the program, really beneficial. But there's no question. You mentioned one book that you wrote, I think romantic, prophetic romance, something like that?
No. I said there's a book that I've written a few books, co-authored. One is called Premarital Conversations and Beyond, right? And it's very important for those who want to marry and those that are married. Then I also wrote 2 books on public speaking. The book that I want to write is Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the prophet of romance, inshallah.
Okay, I thought you wrote, coincidentally, I had this in mind to write something like that, but I thought you wrote one and I wanted to have a copy of it. But you say you haven't written it yet. You haven't written it.
No, the fact that you also want to write, we can maybe write it together, inshallah.
I will email you. I will email you.
Inshallah, Allah bless you, right? Next, please. The last question.
Closing statements, if you like.
No more. That's it.
Okay. Hello?
That's it. No more questions now.
Okay, right now, I want to just, my beloved brothers and sisters, I want to tell you about a few. Tomorrow, we are having premarital conversations and beyond. And next week, Saturday, we are having a great program. It's called Pornographic Addiction, the Unspoken Addiction, with Brother Wael Ibrahim. And on the Sunday, I got a program about, about conflict management with Maulana Bam. But better than that, inshallah, better than all of these things, in September, we're having the following programs. 1, managing relationships during the lockdown. The second one emotional intelligence and its role in marriage. The third one, dealing with your past. The fourth one, psychological barriers to success. And the fifth one, transforming your children into leaders. But these programs, you got to pay for these programs. They'll be 2 hours long. We are limiting it only to 125 people, only to 125 people. And we want to really make it interactive, and we want to support you in this. So please, my brothers and sisters, we'd like you to support this. And you can see from the programs, we give practical solutions to these programs, right? So I want to say to all of you, please, you know, psychologists have said, if you do not change within 48 hours after a presentation, it's unlikely you're going to change. So my prayer is, inshallah, that you change. May you find happiness in your homes. May Allah keep you strong. And with those few words, I want to thank Mizan and Zunaid, who do all the work in the background. And there it is. You can go to my website, idriskhamissa.com, September, and you can email me. And inshallah, we look forward to your participation. The bottom line, my friends, is this. Are you prepared to invest in your own education? Are you prepared to invest in your own development? Because nothing is more beautiful than for you to be self-assured and do things, inshallah, that will make you happy and make people around you happy. With those few words, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.